back to Simple High School Physiology. This is Dave, and today we will be covering Module 10, the male reproduction. Now, it's fairly common in textbooks to put the reproductive system at the end. I'm not sure why, but I guess it's because you're creating another person instead of yourself. But since this class or course is kind of oriented toward 9th and 10th grade students, I thought we wouldn't wait till the end. We'd just go cover the male today, and the next module 11 will cover the female. The reason we're doing that is that the male system is fairly simple, pretty straightforward. It's the female that's kind of complicated. So we're going to cover the male first and kind of get that out of the way, and then when we come to Module 11, we will go into more detail about the fascinating female of the species. Okay, very good. So something else I'm going to do a little bit different today. Normally I avoid a lot of vocabulary, but I think in this case I'm going to introduce it early so that when we go over the pictures, it'll be kind of familiar to you. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to take a look at some of the vocabulary that we will be covering. I realize that with the internet and the YouTube and all these platforms available that many of you probably already know quite a bit about this topic, and that's fine. Maybe this information today will help confirm some of the things you already know. All right, so some of the vocabulary we're going to be using today. Let's see if I get this. Is that okay? Is that going to work out okay? Right there. Okay. Penis is, of course, the male organ through which he pees or urinates, and through which the sperm come out during ejaculation. So we're going to talk about the penis. The foreskin is a flap of skin that covers the end of the penis when the baby is born, when the boy is born, and that's usually removed a couple of days after the child is born, although it can be left on. And the urethra. This is the fancy name for the tube inside of the penis through which both urine and sperm go through, not at the same time, of course. Testes, this is where the sperm are made, and there are two testes. They hang down outside of the male in front, and they're sometimes called testicles, so don't be confused there. And they hang in something called a scrotum. That's the bag that the testes hang in. All right. Vas deferens, this is one of those fancy terms again. This is the sperm tube. This is the tube leading from the testes up to the penis, through which the sperm go out during ejaculation. So it's just a kind of a fancy term for the sperm tube. Semen is a liquid, kind of a milky liquid, that the semen are in as they are ejaculated out of the penis. And they come from a couple of different sources, and we'll be taking a look at that. Sperm, of course, these are the little critters that contain the hereditary or genetic information. Remember that half of the DNA comes from the boy, the male, and the other half comes from the female. Okay, so those are those words. Here are some other words we're going to be looking at today. Prostate gland. This is a gland just outside of the bladder, kind of between the bladder and the penis. And this is, well, anyway, we'll be taking a look at that. don't want to say too much right now. Seminal vesicle. This is a little organ that secretes part of the semen. Okay. Bulbourethral gland, kind of a funny name. Again, another gland that secretes some of the semen and a few other functions. I'm looking at these all upside down, so I have to read them. Erectile tissue. This is special tissue inside of the penis that makes the penis become erect when the man is ready for sex. It's actually muscle tissue, smooth muscle tissue, and he is not in control of it. It's kind of involuntary. Oh, erection is the act of the penis becoming stiff and erect when the man is ready for sex. Flaccid describes the penis when it is not erect. So it's just hanging down. We say flaccid. Orgasm is the very pleasurable sensation which is produced when the man is very excited and he experiences very frequent muscle contractions, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. Ejaculation accompanies orgasm, and this is not the same as orgasm, but this is the actual ejecting of semen and sperm out of the penis as a result of the orgasm. Okay, and there's two more things we're going to take a look at today. One is impotence. This is the inability of a man to achieve an erection, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And vasectomy is an operation that can be performed on a man when he's older, which will stop the sperm from coming out and basically make him completely, birth control, completely, no sperm will be coming out of this guy. Okay, fine. So, let's take a look at the pictures now. Enough of all this words, but at least you can be familiar with the words. You can go back to them if you need to see the spelling, okay? This is the first picture we're going to take a look at, and the area that we're looking at has two functions. One is that the man is able to urinate or pee out the penis, and obviously during sex, that's where the semen and the sperm go out. So two functions of the penis, of course, not at the same time. Let's look at the urinary function first. As you recall, when we took a look at the kidneys in Module 9, we had these ureters here and here coming down from the kidneys, right? And they brought urine down to the bladder. So here's the bladder. And the bladder, of course, is the storage place for urine until you're ready to pee. Now, just outside of the bladder right here is the prostate gland. All right, we'll be talking a little bit more about this in a few minutes. Here's the urethra, which is, again is the pee-pee tube, which goes out through the penis. Okay? So that's pretty straightforward. Here's another look at the bladder. Again, the ureter is coming down from the kidneys. This is the bladder. This is a little bit better view of the prostate gland. Again, the prostate secretes some of the semen. It also activates the sperm, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. What we don't see here is the continuation of the penis out this way to take the urine out when the man is peeing. Okay. This picture, much the same thing, the two ureters, the bladder, the prostate gland. This time we have a penis. I don't know if it's supposed to be erect, I don't think so. but we can see that it extends out, and here's the urethra or the PP tube inside, and the urine will go out that way. All right. Okay. All right, in this picture we get a little bit more specific. Here's the bladder. Here's the prostate gland right here. Okay. And now we've got the testes down here. And of course they would be hanging in a bag called the scrotum. We just don't see that right now. And this is where the sperm are produced. And they're stored right up here in this little part of the testes. And this is the sperm tube here, coming up, going all the way around, under the ureter, and then in front of the prostate, in front of the bladder, through the prostate gland, and then out the PP tube or the urethra. Okay? Same thing on this side. This is the sperm tube coming up. So there's two sperm tubes, each coming from the two testes. Kind of an interesting sideline about the word testis. Back in the Roman Empire, the word testis, which comes from the word testimony, which means to say something under oath, back in the Roman Empire, if a man went to a law court and he had to tell the truth, he would not put his hand over his heart. He would put his hand over his testicles to show that he was going to tell the truth. So testimony and testicles kind of come from the same word. All right. Okay. By the way, we're starting to see some specialized tissue inside the penis here. This is the erectile tissue. All right. And when the man gets sexually excited, blood rushes into this area. It's really a smooth muscle. And when the blood rushes in, it actually causes the erection. Just like a plant, when it's watered, and the water pressure goes into the plant, and the plant stands up. It's almost the same comparison. All right? Except in this case, we have blood rushing in. And of course, the brain is involved with this one. Okay. In our next picture, this is more of a side view of everything. And let's see, where are we going to start here? We start from the penis. So here's the penis. The foreskin may or may not be on here. And the urethra, or the PP tube, going back. This again is all erectile tissue in here, and it can only be activated or made erect by blood rushing in. Again, the penis is not a bone. The erect penis is not a bone. The erect penis is only held stiff by the presence of a lot of blood in the penis, which causes it to become erect. As we go back, we see the urethra going back here and going back to, I'm looking at this upside down. Here's the bladder, so it's going actually, there's the prostate gland right there. And this is something called the seminal vesicle. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And this is little thing right here is called the bulbourethral gland. All right. Let's see, where are we going to go to next here? Here are the ureters coming down into the bladder. So we already talked about that. From the side view, we can see the colon. Now here's the large intestine, the end of the colon coming down. And this would be the rectum here, where the feces is stored, and then of course there's the anus. And we see the tailbone, the backbone, coming down here to the bottom here. What have I missed here? Oh, the testis right here. The sperm are stored up here until they're ready to come out. Let's see. Okay, we might come back to this picture, but I want to continue with the anatomy here, sort of. So in this picture, what do we have? We have the testicles or the testes, we have the penis, the urethra, we have the erectile tissue. Here we have the bulbourethral glands. There's two of them, here and here. Here's the prostate gland. The seminal vesicle is right in here. It's kind of hard to see. Here's the bladder. We've got the two ureters coming down here. And we have the sperm tube, or the vas deferens, coming up behind the prostate gland and then going down into the penis. Okay. This nice picture over here is a cross-section of the penis, and this shows the erectile tissue inside, and it takes up quite a bit of volume. Here's the urethra or the pee-pee tube down below here. Okay. All right. So let's see. And the last thing we're going to look at is by anatomy is the sperm. And of course the sperm contains the genetic material. It has to combine with the egg in order to create a new person. The tail is simply for movement, and all of the genetic material is up here in the front. And we'll be talking more about the sperm when we talk about what it does. Okay. So, bye-bye sperm. Put you over here. Okay, now, I'm going to get back to this picture and talk a little bit more about the function of erection and ejaculation. Okay, let's start with erection. First of all, the man needs to be sexually excited. It could be visual, it could be something he thinks about in his mind, could be someone he's with, doesn't really matter, but the brain gets excited first. The brain is always involved in this. Brain gets excited, sends messages by nerves down to the penis, telling the arterioles, remember arterioles, they can dilate or constrict, telling the arterioles to dilate and fill the penis with blood. The penis becomes erect, and after some time, either of pleasurable stroking, outside or inside the woman, it doesn't matter, the man experiences orgasm, which of course is a very pleasurable sensation, but is also a physiological function in that muscles in the back area of the penis here, including the erectile tissue, go into an intense, almost an earthquake eruption, and sends actually very fast muscular contractions, but the contractions push outward this way because the whole idea is to ejaculate the semen and the sperm during the orgasm. So the orgasm is the feeling, and the ejaculation is the actual expulsion of the semen and the sperm. Now, where does the semen come from? Well, it comes from three places. One is the seminal vesicle, which is right here. All right. The seminal vesicle provides about 60% of the semen. The semen is just a fluid that contains the sperm, that helps them live for a short time and helps them be expelled from the penis. But they also have some things in them. So 60% of the semen will come from the seminal vesicle, about 30% will come from the prostate, and a little bit will come from the bulbourethral gland, which is right here. Okay. Now, sticking with the bulbourethral gland, it provides, first of all, lubrication. So prior to the semen going out the erect penis, the bulbourethral gland will secrete a lubricating substance into the penis so that everything slides smoothly out. Okay? Very good. Let's see, what else is here? Oh, also a little bit of the substance that this gland puts out into the urethra is a germicide, so it'll tend to kill any germs that happen to be in the pee-pee tube there. Okay. The seminal vesicle also, not only with the semen, but in the semen that it secretes, is a little bit of fructose. Now, fructose sounds like glucose, doesn't it? Because it is a sugar, and it provides a little bit of nutrition for the sperm, which can live inside a woman, inside a woman's vagina, for up to 5 days. So the sperm need a little bit of nutrition. So a little bit of fructose comes from the seminal vesicle. Now, this is kind of interesting. When the sperm are ejaculated from the testicles and come all the way up the sperm tube here and all the way behind the prostate and then out this way, okay, until they reach the prostate, they're inactive. They're sort of passive. In other words, they're not swimming. They're in a sort of acidic environment, which makes them inactive. Once they go through the prostate gland, the prostate releases the substance which changes the pH. And in doing that, it activates the sperm and they start swimming. All right, they actually swim. That's what that tail is for. And there's something like, 400 million sperm come out and are ejaculated out of the penis. All right. Now, let's see where we're going to next here. Orgasm, ejaculation. The sperm. Oh, about 100 million. I got confused there. About 100 million sperm. I doubt that someone actually counted them, but let's stay with what the book says, 100 million sperm. By the way, when we talk about them swimming, once they get into a woman's vagina, their speed is about 1 to 4 millimeters per minute. There's our metric system again, right? Okay. So let's see if I've forgotten anything here. That's really about it. After the ejaculation, of course, there's no need for the erectile tissue to stay in an erect state, and so the blood drains out and the penis goes back into a flaccid state again. Okay? Let's see. I think that's about it. By the way, I forgot to say, everything's upside down here. It's kind of hard. This is the pubic bone right here. So it's just another part of the anatomy. Okay. I think that's it. All right, I'd like to talk a little bit about impotence. And there's impotence in young people and there's impotence in old people. Usually there's not much impotence in the middle people in the middle age. When a young man is having, well, first of all, impotence means inability to get an erection. You got to remember that erection and this whole sexual thing is tied in with the brain. And if you're with somebody you don't like, or if what you're doing is wrong, and your brain says that to you inside, then the brain's also going to tell your penis not to become erect. So this sometimes happens in very religious people, where you're not supposed to have sex until you get married, and you want to have sex beforehand, and your penis is not working. There's a perfect example of the brain getting in the way and saying, no, don't do it. So in almost 100% of the cases of young men not having an erection, it's because their brain tells them not to. Okay. Now, in the case of older men in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, it's a physical thing. And what happens is that the actual arteries and arterioles that feed into the erectile tissue become plugged with fatty tissue and fat cells and so on. And it clogs up the blood that's supposed to be coming into the erectile chambers. Um, this there are various ways that this can be corrected. Um, the new, uh, not new, but the pill. What is it called again? Yeah, Viagra. Sorry, I have to ask our cameraman, my son here. Uh, Viagra type pills, of course, help to open up those arterioles and allow the blood to flow in. Um, so anyway, fortunately for older men who up to until a number of years ago were unable to get an erection, they are now. All right. So that's pretty much it for impotence. Uh, a little bit about vasectomy, and for that, I want to go to a different picture. We're going to look at this picture. We looked at it before. Now, vasectomy, as you might guess, has to do with the vas deferens. And the vas deferens is the sperm tube. It's the tube that comes from the testicles up here, carrying the sperm behind the prostate gland and then down through the urethra here, right? On both sides, okay? By the way, when the man ejaculates, he ejaculates on both sides. It's not just one or the other. Now, what if a man wants to have birth control? In other words, he does not, he's already married, usually. He has his kids, and he's probably in his late 30s or 40s, and he doesn't plan to have any more children, he and his wife. And so, but he wants to be able to have sex with his wife and not always grab a condom. And so what he can do is have a simple operation. It's called a vasectomy, all right? And the man will go into a doctor's office, doesn't have to be a hospital. He will lie down, the doctor perform a very simple operation. It takes about 10 minutes. Here's what the doctor does. He goes under the skin right about here and right about here. And he snips off a little bit of this vasectomy, maybe about, trying to remember, about a centimeter, maybe, I can't remember exactly, but about a centimeter he'll snip off here, and then he'll tie the two ends of the tubes. He'll tie this end and this end. He'll snip off another centimeter of the tube here and tie the two ends together. So in other words, he will create a gap here and here in the sperm tube. So when this husband ejaculates, the sperm are ejaculated out of the testes, but when they get to the gap, there's nowhere to go. And so this man cannot have sperm go out of his penis, and thus he is completely under birth control. And so he and his wife can have sex at any time and not have her worried about getting pregnant. What was I going to say? When he ejaculates, the semen will all come out as normal, but there will be no sperm. Now, what happens to the sperm that do come up here and then can't get across this little gap anymore? They will simply be absorbed into the man's tissues. You got to remember, these sperm are very, very tiny. Nothing will be missed. They'll be absorbed, and that'll be it. Okay. He will continue to make sperm throughout his life, but they will not be able to get across this gap that the doctor has created. This is called a vasectomy, which means cutting into the vas deferens. Okay? All right. But remember, this is only undertaken when you already have children, don't plan to have more children, and plan for it basically to be, what's the word? You can't repair it. You can't go back. You can't take it back. All right, usually. Okay, well, I think that's it for the male reproductive system. I hope you enjoyed this. In our next module, which will be module 11, we will go into the female aspect of all this reproduction, and I hope you will join me there. Again, this is Dave saying goodbye.